Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the One Piece season finale. Great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. That opening is even more depressing, because I did not remember that Arlong literally had her chained up. Even later, Nami's like, yeah, he finally let me out of those chains at 12 because he said it was like a birthday gift for me. It's like, Jesus. And it's exactly the points I was making where it's like, Arlong's like, right, you're so valuable to me. And he's like, yeah, once you pay off that 100 million, of course you can trust me. I keep my promise. But once again, she's too valuable to give up because she's like her map drawing skills, like her being able to map out the East Blue like she has is immense, because once he even brings it up again, like you've mapped out pirate strongholds and even where marine bases are. I mean, she's been working at this for 9 years, going all over the place. So, but either way, we're picking up in the aftermath of the last episode, and our heroes show up and see Cocoa Village. It's like Arlong did this not only to punish the village, but also to punish Nami as well. And the villagers have all rallied up because Nojiko had told everyone about what Nami did. It's like, right, I'm sorry. They're like, the head of the village has been like, hey, I'm sorry. Can you ever forgive us? But she's like, there's nothing to forgive, because at the end of the day, this is our Arlong, you know? Because everything she did was for their sake too, and it's just they're alive for now, and that's a blessing. But it's like they want to fight back, even if it means dying. Because I mean, they can never be free of Arlong, because it's like no matter how much they pay, he's always going to make an excuse to come back at them. So they wanted to fight, but it's like, no, like leave this to us. And so the Straw Hat crew bust in, and obviously Luffy and Nami go towards Arlong, whereas Sanji and Zoro do their thing, and Usopp as well, taking down his one, which I love. It's like, yep, doing it in Usopp fashion, running for dear life. I love it, because it's like, Usopp is the great example of playing possum, especially later when he gave himself a fake death. He poured hot sauce on his shirt and everything. It's like, Usopp. And I love that this is the episode of everyone pulling out the attack names, because once again, it's usually only the devil fruit used, because Zoro hasn't done it this series, but I love that Sanji does it. But I also love that Usopp does it, like the exploding siren. He's just like, yeah, I took down that fishman, and literally no one was around to see it, but it's okay. They'll believe me. Yeah, they'll believe you if you weren't constantly lying all the time, but also you don't end up expanding and like completely exaggerating the truth. But it's like, let's not mince words. Usopp won his victory, and I just like, I love my boy getting his first real victory. It kind of reminds me a little bit of a Naruto thing, where it's like, he won with a single shot. It's kind of like Naruto versus Neji. How did Naruto beat Neji? The one time he hit Neji, it was a knockout. So it felt kind of similar in that regard, which is kind of dope. Like, oh yeah, like one single hit was all it took. But yeah, like I said, Sanji and Zoro are doing work, but also butting heads at the same time. I love it. Because also one of the fishermen was like running his mouth about Nami, the guy who knows karate, and that's what pissed Sanji off. And even Zoro's like, ooh, you've done it now. So I love that they were both kind of working together on that fight a little bit. I mean, also while taking down like every other fisherman, butting heads the entire time of like, I didn't need you to save me. It's like, I look like you needed me to save you. It's like, if you really had that one, I wouldn't have been able to take him down. Because I had mentioned it before, I can't remember his name, but he's the octopus dude who's the swordsman. That's who Zoro goes up against, but he's not here. Because I do feel like I vaguely remember in that fight, because if I'm not mistaken, Zoro doesn't get his new blades until during the Alabasta arc, right? Or was it pre the Alabasta arc? I think it was during the Alabasta arc, while they're actually in the Kingdom of Alabasta, that he ends up getting his new sword. I can never remember what the third one was. I know the second one of the two new ones is like a cursed blade, but I can't remember the other one. Like, I felt like the other one was just a really good sword, but like, I definitely remember one of them having significance because it was a cursed blade. That's all I can remember. But I feel like I remember Zoro fighting in this fight and like taking swords from nearby during this fight, because I think he's still only, at this point, he was just picking up temporary blades in the fight, but he doesn't keep any of them. I don't, or like maybe they break during the fight. I don't remember. But once again, it's kind of a moot point because they didn't bring that. Because that also makes me wonder Did they just completely remove the character, or are they planning on doing something different where it's like, because I know once again that character pops up later on in the show under different circumstances. He's not a bad guy anymore. Spoilers, but like I said, it's a moot point because he's not in the show, and so they're going to obviously potentially do things differently. And obviously, once again, what I'm thinking of is super later in the series, so I don't remember if he pops up like around the Fishman Island stuff. I'm like, that's when I remember him popping up again, but I don't think he popped up pre that, and not the time skip real Fishman Islands, but the ones they were in before, stuff went sideways, but that's why I'm like, if they did include his character, he could just show up later on as just as a good guy, rather than having his arc of like, oh, I was a bad guy at first with Arlo, and then I show up again, and I'm kind of okay with the Straw Hat crew. It could just be like he's a good guy from the beginning. So if they wanted to go down that route, like I said, that's kind of later down in the story route. Who knows if we'd even get there, right? So it might just be like, hey, that character doesn't exist, or we're just going to introduce him in a different way. So, but it's just like, yeah, this was mainly supposed to be Sanji's fight against this karate guy. And Zoro was going to get that story. So they're kind of sharing. Plus, Zoro's kind of had a little bit of a disadvantage because he doesn't have all three of his swords right now. So still didn't stop them from like kind of running amok and kicking some ass. And at the same time this is all going down, we have our showdown between Luffy and Arlong. I was like, I'm trying to also remember, did that sword obviously the Arlong fight is heavily condensed. It went down over the course of a couple episodes, but I'm trying to remember, did that sword situation kind of get handled the same way? I feel like that sword battle obviously went much longer with Arlong using his sword. But obviously, Luffy, hearing the way Arlong talked about her like that, once again, he does not like people running their mouths off about his friends, and it just pissed him off, because it's like, oh, you're a tool, you're something to use. And I think it's just dope that Luffy's like, grabs the blade, and you can see his hand is bleeding from grabbing the blade, but he's still breaking it, and he completely shattered. Arlong didn't even have a chance to really use it before it got broken. Like I said, I do feel like I remember it being actually like used for an extended period of time, but maybe I'm misremembering. But Luffy went up against Arlong. It's like, yeah, you made my navigator cry. You hurt my friend, and I'm going, like, no one messes with my friends, and went toe to toe with Arlong. Like I said, like, because they made a point of showing it when his teeth grew back in after kind of getting knocked out. But do correct me, like, wasn't there a situation where, maybe I'm misremembering, like, didn't he also, like, kind of have a little bit of a Joker thing where he, like, Joker had, like, the fake teeth? Didn't Arlong do something like that too, where he used his teeth and pulled them out and regrew them, and he had them in his, like, because I know, like, there was a lot of times during the fight Luffy's getting bit to hell by Arlong. Obviously they didn't go down that route with this. It's just like, oh, he's tough as nails and he's smacking Luffy around, but Luffy's like, I'm not even going to fight, I'm going to tear down everything you have, because he's like, oh, you should be grateful to me, like, Nami would have never reached her full potential without me. And it's like, no, it's not that Nami's nothing without you. You're nothing without her. You've only been able to build all of this because of her maps, what she's been able to do for you as a navigator. So I'm going to build and destroy everything you've been building towards, and just bringing the building down around them. And Luffy does his Gatling for a little bit, which I brought up earlier, like, I knew he did it because it's in the trailer, but I always confuse, like I said, I can never remember if it's like, okay, so there's Gum Gatling, but there's also, I think in my head, I think Gum Gatling Storm, but it might just be Storm. I know that's the one he uses to finish off a future villain, going like completely, absolutely berserk in that particular fight. That's probably one of my favorite ways Luffy's ever finished, because he finished like 2 villains with like that. Obviously, using the second gear, he finishes off one much later on in the show, which is kind of one, and just kind of leaning into it, just kind of giving it your everything, not even taking a moment to stop. But obviously going to have to end it with the massive heel drop, the battle axe, which I do appreciate. It was just the mass destruction of all of that. It was just like foot high in the air and bringing it down, slicing through the building as you're slamming into Arlong, like making him crash down further and further into the ground as the entire building's collapsing on top of you, which I thought was so dope. Also, Usopp showing up like, hey, good work, guys. I'm glad you guys were able to handle what you were able to handle. Also, Nami coming out, it's like, you guys, and Sanji's like, Nami, and she walks right past him, and he's just kind of like, so defeated. I was like, yeah, you love-struck bastard, you womanizing love-struck bastard. It's like, oh, I guess I'll just stand here with my broken heart on the ground, you know? But our boy Luffy, I was actually kind of worried because I was about to say, like, are they gonna, will they do the Arlong thing of him biting him? And like, I was wondering if Arlong was about to get back up, but he didn't. Once again, these fights are like condensed from their anime versions. Once again, they go on for like episodes, and I'm sure in the manga for quite a few chapters. They're pretty extensive fights. I mean, that's typical anime and manga fights anyway. It's never really going to be like, oh, it's done pretty quickly like it would be in a TV show. It's like, no, those go, I mean, like I said, unless it's an anime, like that's when they go pretty extensive for how long, look at a DBZ, for example. It's specifically shonen stuff that does that. But either way, it's like Luffy came out victorious, and it's like, Nami, you're our friend, and basically we got your back. And they're able to kind of celebrate all together. Sanji trying to hit on Chico, and she's just like, yeah, nice try. And no, Zoro's like, all right, yes, your food's fine. I just need to get my strength back up, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, oh yeah, the beginning of a beautiful friendship and rivalry of butting heads. And then Usopp telling the Zoro, like, oh my god, I was so surrounded. I pulled out my slingshot, fired till my fingers bled, and I defeated Arlong and his crew by myself. But he's like, I had a little help. And Luffy be like, 3 cheers for Captain Usopp. We couldn't have done it without him. I was like, I love that. And Usopp just feeling himself like, yeah, let's not forget, like I said, our boy put in his victory this episode. So, because at the same time all this was going down, Nezumi was kind of trying to frame it like, oh yeah, Arlong they've been doing their thing, because Garp had called them out like, okay, we've been hearing that Arlong and his crew have been kind of doing stuff, burn Coco Bib, but he's like, no, that was the Straw Hats, but like, Kobe wasn't going to believe that. It's like, no, like, Luffy would never do that. And Garp wasn't about to believe that because he knows Luffy would never do that, but he goes along with Nezumi's BS just for the sake of like, right, gotta get to Luffy, so... I wasn't expecting, because I'm like, Arlong got defeated at like the halfway point to the episode, so I'm like, okay, so what's the rest of this episode going to be? Garp shows up, and it ends up being a battle between him and Luffy. It's like the rest of the crew, I mean, Morgan's kid and Kobe tried to, they weren't going to follow orders, but every other Marine fell in line. It's like, right, we're going to follow orders. They don't have the same sympathy towards Luffy like those two do. So Garp, and this is our first time getting to see him kind of do his thing. I mean, even then, it wasn't him going all out. Regardless of him hitting Luffy hard, he still wasn't going all out like he could have been. So, Luffy tried the Gum Gum Rocket and immediately got, like, knocked out. Well, knocked down, but no matter how many times Garp, like, hit him, he kept getting back up. Because once again, it's like, right, I did everything to train you, to prepare you to be a perfect Marine, and you turned against me and became a pirate. It's like, I didn't become a pirate. I've always been a pirate. This is who I am, And, his grandfather's just like, right, there's no child's play to all of this. You go out there and cross the Grand Line, you will, like, face danger, you will die. And he's like, yeah, but I will never, no matter what you do, no matter how many times you hit me, I'm going to get back up because I'm not going to give up on my dream. And hearing Luffy laugh like that, him being there the day Gold Rogers was executed, just like Zeph said, it's like, carrying on the will of Diot after all. Him and many others, obviously. But either way, Garp couldn't help but laugh just because it's like, wow, Zeph was right, look at you. And for him, it's like, yeah, he had to go to such extreme lengths because this whole thing was, in fact, a test. It's like, right, I knew I couldn't change your mind because he had been fooling himself for long enough. And I think what Kobe said to him, what Zeph said to him, it's like, right, it really is the next generation's time, and I can't get in your way anymore. I already knew I couldn't change your mind, but I wanted to make sure that you were steadfast in your beliefs. And he's like, couldn't you have gone a little easier on me? He's like, yeah, what fun would that have been, Luffy? It's like, God, your grandfather's crazy as hell, but I love it. And he's like, but going forward, Luffy, you're on your own. But Luffy's like, no, I'm not. I've got my friends with me. And I was like, yeah, you do. Got your Nakama. And even love that Garp is going to start training Kobe and Morgan's son, which I'm like, There's no way he was this significant of a character, even in early One Piece, was he? Because once again, I remember Kobe, because once again, Kobe pops up later on, a little older, a little stronger, but I don't remember Morgan's kid being someone significant. I saw like a picture of him from the anime like recently, but I was like, I don't remember that character at all. And it's like, maybe, was he really that significant? Cause I also feel like like I said, it feels like they're expanding that Garp and Kobe stuff, and I feel like they're blending that a little bit more as like a concurrent story with everything going on. But I feel like that was kind of well off on its own. It wasn't really in conjunction with a lot of stuff. I feel like the Garp stuff was just solely on its own and not really concurrent, like with like all these arcs have been kind of like, it's been concurrent with all these other arcs. I feel like that wasn't the case in the anime, but like I said, my memory is terrible. Once again, I should have like rewatched in preparation, but I kind of didn't want to, because it's almost like a fresh viewing of like, yeah, I have some idea where things going to go. So once again, I think I'd appreciate it more being able to remember what is significantly different and what is exactly the same. Once again, like finishing with the battle axe, exactly the same. Like that's how Arlong met his end. I mean, in fight-wise, it's not like he's dead, but you get what I'm saying, so. And Nami had that beautiful moment at her mom's grave, being able to tell her, like, right, I, at the time, didn't recognize how much you sacrificed for me and Nochiko, but now it's like, now I know what it means to fight for someone else, fight for the people around you, the people you care about, because she, all of this has taught her that. And I do love, and I think it's so beautiful, like her making that pinwheel out of like the tangerine peels, like her mom did, and leaving it at her grave. I thought that was so beautiful and so sweet, especially also, the new Tat to kind of take over, like, right, I'm no longer part of Arlong's crew, and it's just like, right, her and her sister just gotten in a good place and now she has to go, but it's like, yeah, this is what I need to do. And it's like, I know. But know that no matter how far you go, that at the end of the day, you will always have a place back here at home. So then Luffy and Kobe get to say their goodbyes after Kobe shows them like, yep, Luffy's first wanted poster. It's like, yeah. He's like, oh my God, 30 mil. It's like, yeah, the largest bounty in the East Blue. And it's like, yeah, it's like what Luffy always wanted to be wanted, But it is this thing of like, right. They're once again going their separate ways, and now at this point it will be a while before they see each other again. At least it should be. But at the end of the day, Luffy's like, I love that back and forth of like, be a good Marine, and he's like, be a good pirate. And even like Luffy hugging him, it's I don't know, it's like that's Luffy's first friend the moment he made out, like, and I think that is so poetic that, like, I feel like that's not how that quite worked in the anime, but once again I could be misremembering, but storytelling wise, whether it's the anime, whether it's just the live action, the button, like the kind of tail end that with Luffy's first friend being there at the beginning and at the end of the season is very poetic. And he's kind of been here on this journey the entire way, while Luffy's figuring stuff out as a captain, he's figuring stuff out as a Marine. Even Garp is like, right, as a member of the Marines, it's not just about following orders. Every Marine has their own code, and you two followed yours. So I'm going to train both of you. For Kobe, he wants to become strong enough that he could go toe-to-toe with Luffy. He wants to be strong enough to be someone that could take down Luffy. And Morgan's son wants to be strong enough to prove to Zoro he's not the only strong swordsman out there. So both of them are going to go through some hellish training and come out a lot stronger and grow a lot from the experience. So, but like I said, from Garp, it's like that a conversation from Zephyr, like, yes, this is the next generation. This is their time to shine on both fronts, on the Marine front and the pirate front. But I love everyone that's connected to Luffy getting to see his bounty like all over the place. Mihawk showing it to Shank and his entire crew, like, oh my God, Luffy did it. He became a pirate. Yeah, look at that bounty. It's like, oh, I guess we better watch our backs. I love that whole situation. I was like, that's so dope. Zeph keeping one in the kitchen of it, just kind of being proud of him. Back home, the lady from the bar sees Luffy's bounty. It's just like everyone's so proud of him, except for Buggy and Alveda, who are going to join forces. Are like, yeah, we got to get that kid. We got to make him suffer. Because I skipped over like Buggy just finally getting his body back and then immediately hightailing it out of there. It's like, because of course he is. Once again, going forward, this is where we stop seeing Buggy as like a serious thing, and once again, he just becomes comic relief. I mean, he kind of had already been on that path ever since episode, like, once again, everything post episode 2, it's like, yeah, comic relief character. That's kind of his main purpose. I don't know if he's kind of shown up again. I don't know if he's where I was in the series. I don't think I've seen him post time skip. Doesn't mean he hasn't shown up. It's just, once again, where I was in the series. I don't think he had showed up post time skip. So I don't know if he's scary or still playing that role. Because I think the last time I saw him was the Impin Down. No. Well, it all connects to the Impin Down. So it was all pre time skip. The end of the arc before like the time skip is the last time you see, at least I've seen Buggy that I'm aware of, so. Because I'm about to say, because I know Luffy finds himself in a situation where, like, he was about to get executed. And I know Buggy was behind that, because I think it's something it's like on the cusp of pre-Alabasta, but I don't remember the full context for that. But I do remember it's like Buggy and maybe some other people going after Luffy again, like after all of this stuff went down. On the ship, they've got Tangerine so that, specifically Tangerine Tree so that Nami never feels like she's too far away from home. There's always a piece of home with her. They also show off the Jolly Roger, and Luffy's just so happy about it. I also love the wink and nod to, oh yeah, there's like, I don't know, water can't be going up a mountain. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And then also just that beautiful tail end with our crew, heading towards the Grand Line, now going even further in their adventure, and it's just each one of them, leg up on the barrel, kind of commemorating their adventure and where things kind of go next. And it's just, it felt, once again, I know what it is, I know what's happening, but it still fills me with this like warmth of like, gee, I still felt it. And it's just like, Sanji, I want to find the all blue. Luffy, become king of the pirates. Zoro, the greatest swordsman in the world. Nami, I want to map out the entire world. And Usopp, I want to become a brave warrior of the sea. I was like, oh, that's so great. I also love that bit of Usopp being like, look, there's me in the wanted poster too. It's like, yeah, it's the back of your head. It doesn't make that part of Luffy's bounty yours. He's like, what are you, jealous now? Like, don't be jealous because I've got one and you don't. It's like, don't worry, everyone's going to get there soon enough. But I even love that you saw Kaya looking and she saw Usopp in the back of the wanted poster. It's just like, yeah. Because I figured out of anyone, she would be the only one that takes notice of that. So that's pretty dope. So it's just this beautiful, and especially that song. I want to go listen to that song on its own. I've not talked about it. The show has got some great music on its soundtrack. I'm like, they made some really dope musical choices throughout these episodes. But especially that final song that's like My Sails Are Set, I think it's called. That just like, I felt it in my soul. It's just like, it made me, like I said, it put a smile on my face. Hearing that and the ending and seeing the words One Piece. I was like, dude, it got me so hyped, dude. I love it. I love it so much. It felt this wonderment and this, like, maybe it's nostalgia because it's been so long, but it felt so good. It felt so nice. Like I said, the conjunction of what we're seeing on screen and that music and that song, like I said, that song, I felt it in my soul with those vocals, Also our teaser idea, and I was like, okay, so who's it going to be? And it's like, of course it's going to be Smoker. Like, why wouldn't it be? Because if you hadn't heard my other reviews, I kept thinking like, could it be like Robin or Miss Sunday or Crocodile or even Chopper? Never crossed my mind to think it'd be Smoker, but it's like, makes sense. It's like most dogged, like, especially because Zoro made a point of like, right, every bounty hunter in the East Blue is going to come after us. Like, well, that's why we're not going to be in the East Blue. Let's head straight for the Grand Line. It's like, yeah, but you've got some pretty dogged pursuers that are gonna, we saw two of them out wanting to come out and seek their revenge. So just a nice and great way just to end off the season. Like I said, I went into this figuring like, right, Arlong's going to be the end of this season. It's a nice point to bookend everything. Like, hey, we got some of the crew ready, and there's still plenty of the crew left out there to get over the next couple arcs, depending if the show gets to continue or not. Will there be a season 2 of this? I don't know. Once again, I've taken like a very like surface level view temperature check around the internet and see how people felt about it. Some people have vibed with it, other people haven't. They like some aspects of it, but don't. Once again, I understand people's complaints, and not complaints, but their criticisms, and and they're right to have their criticisms as people who are maybe fans of the anime and the manga, and just like once again that aspect of things not translating to live action like 100%. I've still thoroughly enjoyed it. I've once again, it could be nostalgia and just also my bias of like, but I'm also just me. Like, if I might be able to have fun and enjoy something and like invest myself wholly into it, then something's success, and that's what they nailed it in my opinion. So I don't like I said, I don't know how the internet generally feels. I should also note, like, it's only been a couple days since the show dropped. It's Saturday night at the time of me recording this, so it's only been like 3 days now. So there's obviously it takes Netflix a while to decide whether they're going to do something or not. Let's not also forget. I mean, it's pretty hard to forget, but reminder that we are in the middle of a SAG and WGA strike, so that's going to push that back even more potentially. But I mean, sure, it also comes down to how well the show is received or not. So I hope the show is because it's that thing of, yes, there will always be the manga and anime, even if this doesn't get renewed, but still, like, it's there and it's exciting and it's fun, and I want more of it. I know it is that complicated thing of like, right, you've already seen the anime, you kind of know where things are going. Like, why do you need a live action? I don't know, because I like these characterizations of these characters. I think some people are like, oh, they just really nailed the character. I think the actors who have really nailed like finding who these characters are while also adding themselves to it. I feel like, and maybe other people don't agree. Maybe they're like, no, they're just 100% the characters. I feel like they found a middle ground between honoring these characters and embodying these characters while also adding a little of their own touch to these characters. So I'd love to see these actors and, see this production in general continue going forward, because I mean, the costuming and the set design is fantastic, in my opinion, really capturing the nature of this series. I mean, obviously, going forward, that get even more like expensive and more complicated, considering like the different locations, certain arcs. Like I said, would you skip over a certain Skypiea arc, as I kind of referenced previously? So stuff like that. But I do hope the show comes back for not just a second season. It is that thing of, well, how much of the show how much of the series would you adapt? Because it is a manga and anime that is still ongoing in the thousands of episodes and thousands of chapters. So how would you adapt that, like live action wise? Obviously, they're skipping through a lot, because I was listening to something recently. I think they said this entire section is like, 60 episodes of anime, and they condensed that down to roughly 8 episodes, kind of giving you the broad strokes and hitting a lot of like the major plot points and just even more minor points as well. But I don't know, man. Like, I don't need a reason. I don't care if there's already an anime and a manga. I like the live action, and I want to see it continue, because I love to see these actors and the production team behind this continue, because they did, in my opinion, a great job with this first season. So I'd love to see things going forward. Once again, I have to stress this. This is my opinion. You can like disagree, and you can have your criticisms. That's understand. I'm not going to try and take that from anyone. Your criticisms, I've heard some of them. I'm like, okay, I see people's points there, but other times I don't have that same reaction the way some people have with some of their criticisms. They don't really cross into my head the way they do other people. But that's a me thing. So I thoroughly enjoy this, but I will be open to the reality that not everyone's going to vibe with this. But so far where I've seen, so like I said, on my surface level, I've heard people enjoying it, and I've heard people not enjoying it, and I've heard people in the middle. So we'll have to wait and see where things go. Like I said, there's a lot at play here, but I do hope the show gets a second season, because I'd love to see, especially the next story beats that they're going to be covering. Ooh, give me that Alabasta art, and it's like, right, you're gonna have to tackle that chopper thing at some point in time. So heading in that direction as well. So I could definitely see Alabasta being like maybe like if they in like a season 2, I could see that being like maybe I'm underestimating it because I'd assume like a second season would be maybe they go up to 10 episodes, but I could see it being like continuing to be 8, but maybe they could end up like condensing that to like half the season. I still feel like that's a pretty big enough arc that I could see that taking over half the season, but I mean, maybe I'm underestimating how much they could condense that. So either way, that's kind of just where my thought process is right now. Really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.